Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the EmeraldPlanet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of EmeraldPlanet, EmeraldPlanet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. and the United States, looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, and products. And as we look at the 21st century, how are we going to provide employment for a great number of people that are being left out of the digital economy and all the new green initiatives that are going on across the planet and within the United States. And I have a gentleman sitting right beside me who's going to be talking about employment opportunities all over the country and specifically in the National Washington region. This is Charles. He goes by Chuck D. Vollmer, author and founder of Jobenomics and the Jobenomics blog. And welcome back, Chuck.
Well, thank you, Sam.
Always glad to have you with us. And this Jobenomics 20 by 20 outlook, this is something you've been working on for some time now. But tell us about Jobenomics, why it's so important, and what you're finding is actually even more critically important when you started a few years ago.
Well, I thought I could write a book on jobs plus economics. That's Jobenomics. And since we're in the Washington area and I've got some connections on the Hill. So I wrote the book about 10 years ago, but I got no traction either from the left or the right because they had their own plans. And so I wrote a couple other books and on economic and community and business and workforce development. And I went around, met with the governors, and they got a little interest. But where I really found the traction was with the mayors, and especially in the inner cities, especially in the more blighted areas, because they're just fed up because nothing seems to be working for them, and they liked our idea how to mass produce small businesses and create jobs. So it has grown substantially. We've got about a following, about 20 million people, so and about a dozen city and state initiatives. So who knows where the Lord's going to have this thing go, but we're just keep plugging along. It's been about 8 years now, and it's still growing. Well,
it's growing, and the whole thing is it looks like it's taking real traction because people are now coming to you, wanting to know more about it. The mission and the vision, you gave us a little bit about that, but very succinctly, what is the mission and the vision of Jobenomics? And then add to that Jobenomics blog, which is something new since the last time we really talked about this.
Sure. Well, the mission is to mass produce small businesses. Because businesses create jobs, jobs don't create jobs, and we need to create the initiatives that the business respond to. Now we support big business, but 80% of all the new jobs that are created last decade, and 80% of all the employment is done by small and micro businesses. So we really focus on the startup businesses, and so that's kind of our mission. We focus on the people at the base of the social economic pyramid, and we look at mass producing women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, Gen Z-owned business. We call them screenagers. They're the 20-year-olds and below, and anybody that wants to really start a job. So that's kind of the summary of where we're at.
Yeah, and looking at this, we have a number of the jackets that you have here as far as your book, and then the research that you're doing, which is very extensive.
Right.
Now, why, you have all the governments that are providing this, the federal government, states, even down to the county and city level, but yet you found, like you said, 20 million people coming to you. You found a real niche out there, but it's not really a niche. It's a huge, wide area they're talking about. So you have all this research going on, but yet it seems like people are missing all the things that you're highlighting. So how did you find out the direction you needed to be going, and why is it having so much resonance with people, here and overseas as well?
On your slide, on the top left, the Jobenomics was the only book that we had published. It was about 300 pages, really kind of a technical manual about the economy and what's going on and how it was needed. It was a real sleeper, but it turned out to be a very inexpensive business card. So I give it to your immediate credibility. So people would ask me questions about, so the next two books that we did, all the rest of them are ebooks. You can go onto our website and you can download them.
Yeah, and they're for free.
Yeah, for free, yeah. You have nothing better. Maybe I ought to charge them because people don't want anything for free, it doesn't mean anything. But the one and the second one is about it's about 880 pages. It's about the employment, where all the jobs are, where the rapid growing industries, all those types of activity. Where the open jobs are, there's 6 million open jobs. We go into that. What are the 20 million jobs that are out there with the energy technology revolution and the network? And those are the two books on the bottom are about that. And then we published about a 150-page book called Unemployment. And if you're working on the inner cities in particular, you got to figure out why people are leaving the workforce at 3 times the rate than they're entering it. And you have to know about the welfare system, because that's underpinning them, and understand all those dynamics. So all that information is on the website, and we average about 30,000 page views a month, probably about 10 times as many hits. But these are people that actually spend a half an hour on there, and we probably have 30 or 40,000 downloads a month of all this material. And they use it as research.
Yeah, looking at this, you have all these governments putting out research. You've got hundreds, thousands of universities all across the globe doing a similar thing. But yet, when you go out and you look at that, you really don't find your kind of information about why people aren't going into the labor force, where the real jobs are, because people saying there's no work. You're saying there's 6 million jobs that are open that can't be filled, and as far as the technical areas, they're saying there's hundreds of thousands more. What are they missing that you're able to find?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, it's old think versus new think. Like, so the people in the inner city are fed up. Nothing's working for them, so they're going to, old think doesn't work for them, either, whatever's been pitched to them.
Right.
I think it has to do with economic development. You got economic development, and then you've got community development, and then you got business development, and you got workforce development. And everybody starts with the economic, and usually economics got some kind of real estate play. They build a stadium and they'll build these jobs and the new businesses.
Right.
That just doesn't work anymore, because the standard workforce is being outsourced, and the robotics and stuff are all coming in. So the standard jobs really aren't there. And plus the economic development guys always go to the high-skilled, high-resourced areas. To go after
that's where the real money is.
Yeah, that's where the real money
they're concerned.
So we look down here at the base of the pyramid, the lower skilled, the lower resourced areas, and we really, if you're using a term blue-collar worker or whatever, but a plumber makes more than a PhD does now, so we can figure out how to mass-produce business, and we have a number of different initiatives. And what's happened is that the mayor said, all these 9 books is too much to read and decipher. Will you come in and build a program? And so we've done this for about 18 cities now. In some of the hardest places like downtown Chicago and Baltimore, and we've had one going to Detroit that kind of got sidetracked a little bit. We got the smaller towns, Erie. We're doing the state of West Virginia now, and so it's really kind of interesting to taking this information and tailoring it to a local community.
Yeah, looking at this is some of the things you're talking about. In a sense, what's wrong with the system as we're seeing it today. Just quickly go through that, and then we're going to move on, to the rest of our topics here as far as where the jobs are. Yeah,
so everybody is out saying that the economy is doing great. This is the greatest economy in the world. Well, we think it's not sustainable. And we're not trying to say, be negative on the thing. So we put together our matrix of 6 different things, and we said, okay, starting at, yes, big businesses are doing good, and stock market's doing good, unemployment's good, and consumer confidence. But those are really not good measures. Like unemployment, if you quit looking for a job, you're no longer unemployed, so people are leaving. Consumer confidence is high because everybody's saying it's good. But again, you're looking at the wages, and we go into a deep dive in wages. Everybody that took a wage last year of any kind, 72% may be below mean or average wage. And that's why there's so many angry people out there. And in the workforce, the middle class workforce, nothing's really being done to solve their problems. Now, this tax break that is going, and we've written about that, is going to help, but it's really focused on the top end. It's in the standard business, the big business, is the old trickle-down theory, and I'm not being a naysayer. I support where the president's going and all the rest of this stuff. We just need to put the right balance.
Well, and looking at this faltering startup business, this is something that most people are not really talking about, that you've been talking about ever since I've known you, and you're saying it's a steady decline. Why a steady decline?
Well, the fact of the matter is, again, it's old think. Everybody's looking for these big companies. They're looking for the next silver bullet, you know, the next Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, next, they're all looking for that, rather than down at the base, you know, and we just would not have emphasized at all startup businesses. Big businesses are the anchor tenants for the economy, okay? Small business are the engine economy, and startup business are the seed corn, okay? And the seed corn has dropped 50%, and it's not improving. And the fact is, if we're not going to mass produce small businesses, especially at the base of the pyramid, then we're going to have the top guys, the big businesses and the wealthy guys are going to have to dig in a little deeper, you know, to pay for the welfare and the social assistance program here. So I'm saying, and the people at the bottom are not really that, you know, enthusiastic about being in welfare and social assistance. They'd rather have a meaningful career.
They'd like to go somewhere, they'd like to do something purposeful, take care, and do things on their own. Looking at this, the employed area, you're talking about this contingent workforce. What does that really mean?
We said, talked about big business or standard workforce. Standard workforce is a full-time job, the guys with benefits and everything else. Well, they said, well, we need to get more competitive, so they started outsourcing overseas, okay? But now we're pulling that back, but then also we're automating. About 50% of all the jobs, routine jobs, could be automated over the next 10, 15 years. So what companies are doing, they're breaking a full-time job into part-time and task-oriented work and subbing it out to the contingent workforce. Contingent means undefined time.
Right.
So right now, 40% of our workforce is contingent workers.
Yeah, and most of them do not have benefits. They do not have anything that's from the company except just the wage, whatever that is.
Some of those are good, though. But, you know, independent contractors, they have an independent business. I've got an independent business. So a lot of people work part-time, multiple part-time jobs, and those are good things. But
Chuck, we're running out of time.
Okay.
Where do you see all this going? We're talking about the digital economy. Where's it going? We got to be quick.
Digital economy create 10 million new jobs in the next 10 years if we do it right.
That's fantastic. Thank you. This is Chuck Vollmer of Jobenomics and the Jobenomics blog, talking about just everything as far as employment is concerned and where all the employment isn't. And we're going to talk about that some more. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid.
A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close.
I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us.
But I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words.
These are not my words.
These are not my words.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Wanted some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try.
Only you.
Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about ripped off money. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
When it comes to saving money,
What?
don't act like a baby.
Oh, it's like they're having their own little meeting.
This is so humiliating.
Be the boss
I'm the boss.
What the?
Power nap.
You were saying?
and make a budget.
Let's get to work.
Need a little help?
Stacy, read back the notes.
I can't read. What's it say?
Create a personalized savings plan and get other tools and tips
We can share.
You obviously didn't go to business school.
at feedthepig.org.
We're back to the Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Well, welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, services, products, and the people, of course, that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we look at a globe that's going to be adding 2 billion new people by 2050, and we'll be about 9 billion souls on this planet, maybe 12 to 13 billion by the end of the century. How we're going to be able to provide all the basic infrastructure, but also the jobs they need in order to be productive and at the same time to actually contribute to society and their own families. And I have a gentleman sitting right beside me who's been working at this for quite some time. This is Charles. He goes by Chuck D. Vollmer. He's author and he's also the founder of what's called Jobenomics and the Jobenomics blog. He's been with us many times before, and it's always good to have you back.
It's always a pleasure to be back.
Glad to have you with us. Tell us a little bit about your global Jobenomics, but the why of Jobenomics, not just what it is, but why.
The Jobenomics is all about mass producing small businesses and jobs at the base of the social economic pyramid. And we focus on women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned business, Gen Z-owned businesses, or demographics that I think has got the highest potential and need.
Yeah, now you have the title Jobenomics. This is something you and I have actually, kind of gig each other about ever so often, but yet you're really looking at creating new small businesses.
Right.
So the name is Jobenomics, but you're really after small to medium scale business creation. So tell us about that, why the creation of new business.
Yeah, well, jobs don't create jobs, but jobs like real estate. Everybody says real estate is, location, location, location. And when they talk about the economy, they talk about jobs, jobs, jobs. But jobs don't create jobs, businesses do. Okay, but businesses, small business create about 80% of all new jobs and employ about 80%. But businesses don't exist just for business sake. They satisfy a national need. Like automobiles in the transportation business as well. Small businesses are in the hospitality or the accommodation or a number of different services businesses. And so what we do is focus on, it's particularly the lower skilled areas that can start a business. And it's quite easy to do. More thing. I mean, people that get off of the boat, they end up a franchise like a 7-Eleven or multimillionaires within a couple of years. So these, if we can motivate the people at the base of the social economic pyramid, in particular women, because they're our secret sauce that we've not exploited.
Yeah, and this is the whole thing. I don't want to use that word exploited, but the whole thing is giving them opportunities. But looking at why you're really focused on women specifically, because in the old days, women really weren't allowed to get into business. They couldn't own their own business, and that's all changed. Now more and more, women are going in their own business. So why the focus on women?
Well, I said exploit, and I use the word exploit because we need to exploit all the talent that we have in the labor force, okay? And women have joined the labor force. There's a thing called the labor force participation rate, and it's down, to the lowest since 1978. It's dropped from like 67% down to 60%. But it would be 30% if the women hadn't joined the workforce since the last 30 years, okay? But the amount of women that can join the workforce that are available is not as high as it should be. Yeah. In our opinion.
Now, looking at this, you have this set of scales here. You got women-owned business and women in business, and you say there's a very distinct difference between the two. What is the differences? And notice you got the scales a little bit tipped toward women-owned business.
Well,
why is that?
That's the way we want to tip the scale. There's a kind of a narrative out there, especially for the women activists. They talk about the glass ceilings and the women make 72% of what men earn, In our unemployment report, in our employment reports, we go in, we've got about 20 pages on gender gap and the gender pay gap and all the rest. And it's our position is, yes, women do make 72% less because they pick, lower ender jobs, or jobs that don't there. If you look at the woman in the same job, they make 92% or 98% of what a male, so it's only 2% less. But our position is the standard workforce is decreasing. These are the standard full-term jobs, and it's getting harder and harder and harder. And by the way, most of these 50-year-old, 100-year-old businesses, they still got kind of a male, flavor to it, and the glass ceiling is still real, regardless. And so my view is, why put up with it when it's 10 times easier now, and particularly in the digital economy, to start your own business? And so we think women own business is the place to be, and it's 10 times easier to start these businesses. Plus, there's a lot of incentives now. Like this month in March is Women's History Month, and the Small Business Association has got a massive program about how to fund startup for women-owned businesses. So we think that there are more women available now in the workforce for doing this. There are more college graduates, higher tech graduates are women now. And the fact is that there's a higher need than ever before, because women heads of households are much higher now than it were even a couple decades ago. So the need is there, and it's easy to do to start these businesses. So we really emphasize, rather than going into business, we're not discouraging, start your own business.
Yeah. Now, looking at this, declining women business startups, why is that? This is something that's coming up through your research.
It's been coming up. This is Kaufman data, the Kaufman Entrepreneur Institute. The female side of the equation, I just don't see it as an opportunity. It's part of the education. I didn't start my first business. I started many until I was 40. I was with at a Jewish Seder. I'm not Jewish, but I was walking. I was at with a crowd, about 10 people, and they all had their own business, and they were all self-employed. And then they said, "Why don't you do this?" And I said, well, I'd never even thought of it, and I think that's part of the issue.
So it's kind of a mystique that people have, that we really have to go to work for somebody than actually being the employer and starting our own business, and we're bringing people to us.
Yeah, when you say you're an entrepreneur, and people think an entrepreneur like a Bill Gates or somebody like that, or Meg Whitman, eBay, or something of that nature. A real entrepreneur is go overseas, and somebody who's living on $2 a day is a real entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so starting your own business, and so this just shows that the race, ethnicity, education, the fact is that small businesses are declining. We had talked about in the last area, because I think the emphasis in the country is still hanging on to big business, top down. You can see the tax breaks, the tax law that were really oriented to the higher end. Yes, 80% of the people got some money and stuff like that, but it really wasn't focused on the startup businesses or the pass-through businesses, the mom and top kind of business, like other countries are doing, like China is trying to raise 700 million people out of poverty and rural poor by doing micro businesses in rural communities.
Yeah, and I was just in India, and that's what, you got 500 million farmers, quote unquote, agrarians, and what they want to do is they want to double or triple their income by 2022, and also they're giving a whole new track. So they're going organics, they're going all, your designer vegetables and all these other kinds of things. So it's kind of similar to what China's doing, but in India, they're really doing it based on, what they really have, which is their agrarian base, and they want to bring these people along. Yeah, so how can we do that here? This goes back to this women-owned, home-based. Tell us about that.
Well, Bangladesh, started with the Grameen Bank and the micro-business loans of women, and all that stuff is available here. To create women home-based businesses, is easy to do. You could do it on a weekend, but the digital economy is really where where I think the next generation jobs are. Like you said, in India and China, they're going to rural poor. But the first thing they're doing is giving them, wideband to the last mile. They're teaching them how to do e-commerce and mobile commerce and, online banking and telehealth and all those things that we are all now being made available to home-based kind of businesses. And there's no reason why we can't create 10 million home-based businesses. There's right now about 10 million women-owned businesses now. About a third of those are women of color. Okay, there's no reason why we can't create another 10 million, home-based, self-employed or micro businesses in the next 10 years.
Yeah, and this is something you talked about, this direct care initiative. Tell us about that. Yeah. And this really fits very nicely into what you're talking about. Yeah. It can be done at home, talking about the information technology.
You create in-home business, at-home business to provide in-home care. Now you've got health care, elder care, it's child care and behavioral care. Elder care, I'm a baby boomer, as you could probably tell. Sorry, but the idea is that by 2020, there's going to be 20 million beds short for assisted living. So to provide in-home services, now we have big companies like Kaiser and Visiting Angels, but if I start a small-based business to go in there and I equip them with a PDA or a pad connected to these things, you can create a business in 1099 kind of business and then get hired by Visiting Angel if you really are doing it. But the real big one is behavioral care. We've got an effort going in West Virginia now, and where there are opioid crisis. Now, behavioral care is drugs, smoking cessation, illnesses like diabetes, obesity, all those type of things.
So it's behavioral choices in many cases.
That's right, and so PTSD is a mental illness is a behavioral care.
Right.
There is so much federal money going out there that we could create millions and millions of micro businesses and equip them through a direct care center to the right level of upper care. That if they need a doctor, they need a lawyer, they need an accountant, they need whatever, that they can connect immediately to them. But they could be kind of the pawns on the chessboard, and then graduate to the rooks and the knights.
Last question, we got about 30 seconds. Urban agriculture.
Yeah,
that sounds like an oxymoron.
That's right. We are working with a number of groups to create greenhouses and to do 24/7 controlled agriculture, environment agriculture, hydroponics, vertical farming. This is ideal for women and other people that would like to have that kind of a more hands-on kind of business.
And also, too, they can actually sell the products right in their own local communities. Many restaurants are looking for that. Even the grocery stores are looking for it. This is Charles. He goes by Chuck D. Vollmer. He's the author, founder of Jobenomics blog. Chuck, thank you for being with us. It's a great job. I'm leaving this urban agriculture up here because it's something that's quite unique. Thank you for being with us, dear viewer, as we create the Emerald Planet.
For all the papas out there, let's stop what we're doing and take a moment to be with our kids. They can be loud moments, goofy moments, dorky moments. It doesn't really matter. Every time dads take a moment to be with their kids, it's pretty momentous. So let's all take a moment to make a moment today.
Hey, did you know that 2.4 million loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home? Go to theshelterpetproject.org and search your local shelters and rescues. Go for a cuddle with your next best friend. Adopt.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can stop to make sure someone is okay.
We can warn someone when their drink isn't safe.
And disrupt the situation.
We can.
Get someone the cab.
Or walk them home safely.
We can make campuses safer for our friends.
Our roommates.
Our classmates. Our fellow human beings.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can. Intervene.
It's on us.
All of us.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
When it comes to saving money,
Boss! What?
Parents! Don't act like a baby.
Oh, it's like they're having their own little meeting.
This is so humiliating. Be the boss.
I'm the boss.
What the?
Power nap. You were saying.
And make a budget.
Let's get to work.
Need a little help?
Stacy, read back the notes.
I can't read. What's it say?
Create a personalized savings plan and get other tools and tips.
We can share.
You obviously didn't go to business school.
At feedthepig.org.
We're back to the Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
To the Emerald Planet, as we come to you on a week-to-week basis, looking at 144 different nations, looking across all the continents and also in each of these different countries to find out what we call the best of the best. Some of the best technologies, the best solutions that are going to actually solve problems as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet that's growing to 9 billion people, there's certainly a lot of challenges out there. And yet, many people say that this planet can actually absorb up to maybe 12 to 14 billion people if everything is directed and managed properly. And the person sitting right beside me has actually been working at this for a few years. We'll leave it at that. Wasylina, she is the senior EUROPEAID expert. This was something that she was doing before at the University of Tlemcen, and this is in Algeria, not in the United States, Northern Africa. And also she's the CEO of what's called Transatlantic Global Advisory. And Ellen, welcome back.
Thank you, Dr. Sam, for having me.
Glad to have you here. Now, I looked at the website for this University of Tlemcen. It is really a good-looking university. Tell us where that is. And let me go over here. I think we've got a map. Tell us a little bit about Northern Africa, that what they call the Golden Crescent.
Yes.
Algeria is right in the middle of all that, and then we'll go to the town and the university itself.
Certainly. So as you know, Algeria is one of the biggest countries in Africa, and it's one of the countries that's on the North African coast. Morocco, Algeria, Libya, Tunisia, and then down to Egypt. So I was privileged enough to go to Algeria, as you mentioned, as a senior EU expert, helping and advising the Ministry of Higher Education and Research in diversifying their curriculum in the energy sector.
Yeah, and I think it's absolutely exciting because you're looking really at green energy, not at the old fossil fuels, but at the same time you're really looking at women and how they fit into all this. But let's go to the town. I think we have something that actually will highlight where this Tlemcen is. Tell us a little bit about its location and why is it so special? Because there is a very special reason for that.
Yes, so the location is very important for the country. It's where all the elites come out of. It's a very conservative area in Algeria. It's very beautiful, and it's a place of one of the former kingdoms back in the time. So I had the privilege of being escorted and visiting around in the town, and it really made a great difference to me to understand and meet with the people, and being at that very strategic place, close to the Moroccan border, and close to the sea, only 70 kilometers away from the sea.
Yeah, and that's really phenomenal. But it's just amazing how large this country is and how sophisticated it is. But tell us about Tlemcen University. What's special about that?
So Tlemcen is one of the bigger universities in Algeria, and I was particularly there to work on the energy sector. So it's not in the capital, Algiers, but towards, again, in a strategic location, once again, towards the Moroccan border. So my work there was to work with this university and to try to diversify the curriculum again. And this is an important area, Dr. Sam, because there are mines around, there are other aspects of the economy and other aspects of geology that can be exploited.
Yeah, and we call this gender diversification and professionalization. This is in the upper level areas within this university, but as a model program for the rest of the country, specifically green, but you're really looking at it from women being involved in that. And so how did you want to reach out and bring them into the university, bring them into this green energy sector? And this is really a very new concept, but also a new path as far as females within Algeria itself.
Sure. So my role there, of course, is with the EU and EUROPEAID and working in energy. And I was again privileged to be chosen to lead this mission and diversify not only the curriculum, as you rightly said, but also to include women in this curriculum. And we looked at not only, of course, we had to look at fossil fuels, but we also looked at mines, we also looked at hydrology, and then we also looked at the environment. And as you probably know, Dr. Sam, from all your travels and your expertise, that women are really guardian of the earth. So women have a special role for me, and as a woman, it was again a privilege for me to be able to work with these women, young women in Algeria.
Now, looking at the classes here, we have two. We have one is predominantly with females. The other looks like it's very mixed.
Yes.
What is the mix as far as male to females in the universities there? Because we think of the Arab countries, women are not really going to higher education. In many countries, they're actually, in a sense, overrepresented, from the male counterparts, and that's a very growing area. So what did you see in Algeria that you are creating a path forward for the females?
So Algeria school is obligatory in Algeria. So everybody goes. So which was great because we had at least a 50-50 representation. And this, again, being in the energy sector, many women went ahead and would go forward to become doctors, PhDs. So that was very good for me to see that women were so well represented even in this scientific domain.
And interacting with the faculty, we have a faculty member here. Of course, this is a male student, and we're talking about females specifically. But what is the interaction as far as the faculty, the indigenous faculty from Algeria, and how they themselves are actually reaching to the students and to really enhance and make it comfortable for both genders to be there to learn, grow, study, and then contribute as far as professionals for the future growth of Algeria?
I think you saw in some of the pictures that I sent you there are women professors, and especially one, Fatima, that was extremely dedicated to her students and gave of her time to make sure that everything went well, especially for young women. So I was witness to her dedication and her profound interest in bringing these women along. And I myself, of course, as a woman, went and really insisted on communication, soft skills, if you will, plus the scientific knowledge to make sure that these women spoke out and were able to speak. But I did not feel that there was any sort of discrimination or imbalance, if you will, in the class that that I was dealing with, which you showed earlier.
Yeah, and the whole thing about it too, you have equality as far as going into the universities. It's actually expected that people will be well educated, and they are in most cases. Do you think because of this national public policy has made a real difference as far as the recruiting and keeping women in, going all the way through higher education that many other countries may not have?
I believe so, Dr. Sam. I think that what was my experience anyway in this university was to see that as much men as women were in these classes, and especially in scientific domains, which is great, which I've also seen in Eastern Europe. So there's this pushing women forward and becoming very well versed and very well educated. And as I said, they all want to go on to be doctors, to be PhDs. So that shows a great motivation and wanting to give, and many of them would like to become teachers or professionals in other domains. So they're really there, and when you have women professors as they did, and then myself as well coming in and encouraging the women to go forward, I think that's key.
Tell us a little bit about the females that we have here in this photograph. What are they seeing as human beings, in this country as far as their future is concerned? And also, is it welcoming for them to make all the contributions that they can make into society as well as within the community itself?
Sure. This particular photo was taken after a day that I spent with mechanical engineering students. So you can see there were a few women in this particular class. This is a different one from the energy class. And I really encouraged the groups that we were putting together to have, include women, and not only women together, but men and women together as a group, so that it wouldn't be isolated and only women, with women. I said, I want to have a woman in every group, and I want even a woman to be a leader. And these you can tell, they're very forward-leaning, forward-looking women, And I must say I was very impressed with them.
Yeah, yeah. They're very smart, very engaged. I found this. I've been in 93 countries now, and I was just in India, and it's just amazing how engaged you know, they really are, and how they're contributing to society. But you look at this university, when you go look on their website, you go on the campus, you know, it's a very modern, it's
quite
very
recent,
advanced, could be anywhere in the world.
Sure.
So talk about this environment, the investment that Algeria itself is actually putting into education for its own future.
It's extremely important, education. You hit the nail right on the head, because Algeria has shall we say, an advanced birth rate. So they have to provide schools, they have to provide housing for all their citizens. And as I said, once again, school is obligatory. So they're creating more universities, they're responding to this demand, and they're trying to educate their young people for the future. As you know, probably like in most developing countries, there's a huge youth population under 30 that they have to find jobs for. And going back to your discussion earlier about, you know, where is the next job, where is the next, you know, sector, economic sector that they can develop.
Yeah, and interesting in this photograph here, as far as the mining is concerned, a very traditional, very tough environment to be in, but yet you have the females right in this. So looking across all of these technical services, and, you know, as far as the STEM and the STEAM type of courses, were you seeing it fairly well mixed as far as females and males?
Yes, absolutely, and that's what I was so pleased to see, is that you can see these are my colleagues, professors, and then the two gentlemen on the left are the gentlemen from the mines, and they received us, and so we were going out on this trip, and you have this woman in the middle, Fatiha, that was our professor and leader, very dedicated to her students. And my other colleague was also there, and they were very dynamic women and very much appreciated by the students, so they really showed leadership.
Now, looking at this is really a mixed group as far as a university, and this is all joy. You know, people going on campus usually enjoy their time there, and you say it's obligatory as far as education is concerned. So, so there's a real career track for women then moving up as far as professorships,
absolutely,
and then also out into the business world.
So this particular building is the medical faculty. It's a magnificent building, and this is the end of the Pan-African Union Water and Energy Studies, which is within Tlemcen University. And I was privileged to speak there on sustainability and sustainable development. So you see the mix, and this was specifically geared towards Africans, as you can see. And it was just a wonderful day, and this was the end of the day. So you have the president there as well. And
yeah, and this is a very nice environment where you were suffering and doing your teaching and
closing
all that.
Shot, yeah.
But this connecting women, and we're going to go out, I'm going to leave this up here. You had a number of groups nationally, internationally, focused on women. We got about 20 seconds. Tell us about this, and we're going to close.
Okay, so I just put these 2 or 3 groups up because they're also developing soft skills for women. And women, and I might mention in Paris, belong to a STEM committee in the American Chamber of Commerce. So it's really important to get women on that track with soft skills, looking for problem-solving skills, Dr. Sam. I think that's the most important.
And this is Ellen Wasylina. She was the senior EUROPEAID expert at the University of Tlemcen. This is in Algeria, not in the United States, North Africa. Also CEO of Transatlantic Global Advisory. Thank you for being with us and sharing about this. And thank you, viewers, for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Saving for retirement might be easy for some folk, but for others, it might take a little more work. And for those who haven't started, there are still things you can do to catch up.
Oh, that is good news.
Like getting out from underneath past debt. And don't get wrapped up with high-interest credit cards.
Get you some eyes.
Be diversified with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your financial goals are not out of reach. The choice is clear. For a happy ending, choose to save.
Everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent. Like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit asha.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
We're back to the Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis as we look around the globe for what we call the best of the best, those 1,000 best practices that are making a real difference as we go through the 21st century. And as we add 2 billion new people to the planet by 2050, how we're going to be able to provide the food, the fuel, the fiber, all the basic infrastructure, and of course the education that's going to make a difference as we move through the 21st century. And I have someone sitting right beside me is doing actually all of these kinds of things, looking at different types of research, education. This is Ellen Wasylina. She's an adjunct professor formerly at the Business School of Business in Paris, France. And she's also the CEO of Transatlantic Global Advisory. And Ellen, welcome back to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you, Dr. Sam.
Glad to have you here. Tell us why you think it's so important that yourself, but also other Americans, really need to be teaching abroad and being involved in a place like the Paris School of Business.
Well, it was definitely a good experience for me. Going and leaving, California, my home, and going to France to teach. And I did that after my kids were grown up and I had a little bit more time and wanted to give back. So I definitely recommend that Americans go and teach abroad, be it in Algeria or in France, and give back and give some perspective on subjects such as geoeconomics, geopolitics, sustainability, international trade, and give a perspective for the students.
Yeah, and I think it's important. This is the kind of student that people are going to be looking at, working with, usually very bright, very energetic, well engaged, quite smart, because it's very competitive internationally when you're in a country like France, when you have to take these national exams, and that really determines your whole future. So looking at your time in Paris itself, leaving the students for a few minutes, what did you get out of that experience that you feel like was unique to being in Paris, being in France, that you would not have had and experienced if you stayed and done the very same thing within the borders of the United States?
Well, I'll tell you, teaching abroad is a great experience also culturally and linguistically. And just another approach and approaching a subject from another continent, shall we say. Living in the United States, there's this different perspective of land of plenty and having everything we need, big country, 300 million people. Whereas you go to France, France is the side of Texas. So you have another perspective, even though France, of course, is in the EU. It has
European Union.
Yes, in the European Union. It's one of 28 countries. So it's like being a state within a larger ensemble, but not being part as a state. So it has an identity, a cultural identity, and it's so enriching to be able to go to another country, learn the culture, learn the music, the theater, the books, the language, the food, the wine. I mean, it's a tremendous. It's a tremendous overall experience. I definitely recommend, going to. I mean, I have, of course, a very soft spot for France now that I've lived there for so long, but. You can go anywhere. You can go to Italy, you can go to Spain, or you can go to other countries.
All 28 countries.
That's
They're
right.
Part of the European Union very easily by train.
That's
You
right.
can go everywhere. You don't even have to drive. You can take buses everywhere. You go through the Channel right out into the United Kingdom. And
that's right.
So I mean, it's just a tremendous experience. But what did you learn from these students that are sitting right here, the ones you're talking to within this photograph, again, that you may not have learned from if this was a group of American students.
So working with Paris School of Business, and that's one of the schools that I taught at, that particular photo, and this one again is from the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. Paris School of Business had a policy of having 90% foreign students. With just
90% foreign students. That's incredible.
That's right. And of that were a few American students, and of that were just a few French students. So they prided themselves, and I was also in their recruiting process, to recruit students that would really contribute something to the school and to a subject that I was also a professor, an adjunct professor, so that I would be teaching 15, 20 different nationalities in one classroom. So that's the enriching part of it, I think, too, is to get their perspective. I always told them, I'm teaching you, but you're teaching me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a two-way street, Dr. Sam.
Yeah, and the whole thing about this, too, looking at sustainability, resiliency, innovation, all these buzzwords that we have now as far as the green economy, how did this come out, and how were you incorporating this in this very international setting within Paris, France?
Sure. So as I probably told you, I also had a think tank. So I was able to integrate what I was doing as an adjunct professor into the think tank and talk about innovation. For example, I did 3 different events on 3D printing. How is 3D printing going to change the way we ship, the way we build, the way we move forward, and no waste? And so I always got my students involved in my events and invited them and made it even part of their projects. So the two overlapping areas would create innovative ideas, and I always asked them in their end of the year project in the business strategies course that I did, for example, that they had to come up with an innovative project on a team, geographically located, and come up with a new niche idea.
It's fantastic. What a great idea. Looking at the acronym STEM and STEAM. What is STEM and what is STEAM? And then why is it critically important to students just like the ones that we're looking at right here?
Sure. So STEM, I think, is important, especially for women. As I mentioned earlier, I was a member of the American Chamber of Commerce in Paris, and we were recruiting young women to go into science, technology, education, and math. Fortunately, in France, we have a science-based, math-based education system, as is the case in Algeria and is also a case in the former Soviet Union. I think we lack that here in the United States, where we're not pushing enough the science or the math part of it. And girls are going into other areas, maybe softer areas, journalism or other areas.
International affairs, economics,
sure,
whatever it
international
may be.
affairs or economics are important, but innovation and being able to take the economy to the next level requires that scientific knowledge and innovation of understanding where the economy is going to go to next.
And STEM has been around for some time, but now we have this STEAM. Why STEAM?
STEAM is something that's been moving forward and being innovative. We have AI coming out, artificial intelligence. All these digital aspects of our economy, as you mentioned in the previous segment, are really going to affect us on how we can apply them to healthcare, to cybersecurity, to even sustainability, looking over energy infrastructures. Now we fly drones over pipelines. So all these little types of innovation that will create jobs. I don't believe we're going to outsource jobs anytime soon if we are able to get a handle on the scientific basis of innovation and innovation creating jobs.
Well, in the STEAM, we have arts right in the middle of this. You've got the science, technology, engineering, then you go to the mathematics, and then coming back to the arts. Why arts? And putting that all with what we can normally consider hard sciences. Why is arts in the middle
well,
of that?
Arts, I'm a musician. I taught music to my kids as well, and I think being able to express yourself musically is also part and parcel of a well-rounded education. To be well-cultured, to be well-linked culturally, the 5 different segments of economic integration, the last 2 are education and culture.
Exactly.
People, money, merchandise, information, you're moving all these things, but if you forget the cultural aspect of integration, of the economic integration, it's something that's very important.
Yeah, and if you look at much of the Romance languages, it's the cultura, the culture is part of that. And when you look at the Europeans, even the Russians, the Japanese, and others, they really look at the cultural aspect of that as much as anything else.
Of course.
Because if you're not a cultured person, they don't think you can really be an educated person. You may be trained, but they don't think you're necessarily educated. And I think that's something that we really need to think about in the United States, that education is the total person, the total culture. Looking at women, entrepreneurship, I know this is something that you're really focused on at your time in Paris and other countries that you've been in. Why is it so important that women learn entrepreneurship and starting their own businesses, not just being in business? So what I did in my business strategies class, which has now been rebranded under Transatlantic Global Advisory, is Entrepreneur, how to become an entrepreneur in 3 steps. It's important to see where we can create jobs next, where we can create that niche, where women can find a place in the economy. As you know, that's the gig economy. I always tell my students, don't think of becoming an employee anytime soon. Try to create your own business, create your own jobs, and then provide for others and make advances in technology, science, and et cetera. Now, looking at the green economy, this is something that is near and dear to what we do as far as EmeraldPlanet is concerned, EmeraldPlanet TV. But yet you're telling, and you just said this, is you're directing women specifically into this whole area. Yes. Why the green economy, and not just the classical, traditional. Well, as you probably know, Dr. Sam, and this is the whole crux of your show here, is that we have to be aware that we're running out of fossil fuels, as we discussed earlier in Algeria. We need to look at other aspects of the economy and find cleaner, more efficient, more profitable ways of heating, cooling, changing light bulbs, using energy more efficiently. That's really the bottom line for the green economy. Yeah, and it's just like in the studio right here, we're using LED lights, which is, you know, 2nd, 3rd generations away from the old incandescents that were in here. And it takes maybe 1/10 to 1/8 of the energy in order to cool this room and keep it very comfortable than what we had before. So you can actually save money by going with the green economy. Looking at jobs in a green economy, looking at in France, we had talked earlier about Algeria, but you've been in many different countries around the globe. What are you seeing as far as the future jobs? So what I would really like to put emphasis on is energy efficiency. How can we make homes and businesses more efficient? We can leave those heavy fossil fuels for the industries, manufacturing. It's going to take time, 15 years at least, to redo the whole plant and redo the whole energy infrastructure. However, on the city level, where I worked as Director of Environment in France, we were able to go door to door and make those changes known and what each citizen could do to change and save. It's savings. It's using energy more efficiently. It's light bulbs, as we rightly mentioned. It's using what we have around us, biodiversity, don't forget, and making those planting areas in the city, for example, more sustainable and more in touch with the seasons. Yeah, and looking at this, we're going to go out with this on graduation. Why is graduation so important? And to you? Oh, graduation is the crowning achievement of what you've achieved. You've really gone away and achieved something, and I think it should be celebrated. Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you for being with us, Ellen. You do such a fantastic job. And it's good to have you here. This is Ellen Wasylina, Adjunct Professor, formerly at the Paris School of Business in Paris, France, as we look around the globe and we create the Emerald Planet.